name's Scott Goossens. I was on the Blue Angels for the 2022 and 2023 seasons as the number 3 pilot in 2022, and then the number 4 pilot in 2023. So initially flying that left wing position in the number 3 jet, and then in my final year in the number 4 jet in the slot. Yeah, so I grew up in San Francisco, California, a city that has a rich naval history. But when I was growing up there was really no military presence whatsoever. Alameda had kind of closed down, so not a ton of Navy, not a ton of Army. The Presidio had kind of shut down as well. But what we did have every year was the Fleet Week Air Show, and I remember as a kid, every October, the Blue Angels would come into town and would be flying around all over the city. And I remember thinking it was the coolest thing in the world. When they would do their practices on Thursday and Friday, it was the only thing throughout the entire school year that would stop school. You know, the blue and gold jets would be whizzing around outside the windows, and the teachers knew that they had no chance of keeping all the kids' attention on them, so they would actually let us go outside and watch the jets fly around. And I just remember thinking that's the coolest job in the world, and that certainly lit kind of the initial spark in me for being something that I would want to do. And not necessarily being a Blue Angel pilot, but just being a naval aviator, being able to potentially one day join the Navy and hopefully fly fighter jets. I just thought it was a cool career, and I took somewhat of a roundabout way to get there. When I finished high school, I certainly wasn't at a point, at least in my life, where I felt ready to join the Navy or commit to going to the academy. So I went to George Washington University in Washington, D.C., studied political science and history, and played soccer on the soccer team there. Absolutely loved it. It was a great 4 years, really enjoyed being in Washington, but that bug, I guess, was still in me to eventually one day fly for the Navy. So graduated college, worked in Washington for a few years, and then I was sort of at this crossroads, if you will, or fork in the road, where it was go to grad school and kind of continue down the path that I was on, or apply to be a Navy pilot, because the age window for me was starting to close a little bit. I think at the time you needed to be 27 by the time you started flight school, and I was 24. So I knew I'd regret it if I didn't at least submit an application. So put in an application to be a Navy pilot, and fortunately I was selected. I remember the whole process took almost a year, the application process, and then when I got the word that I had been selected, they said I was going to officer candidate school in 2 weeks. So it took forever, and then at the same time, once it happened really fast. And before I knew it, I was up in Newport, Rhode Island, going through officer candidate school, which was an experience for sure, but it's definitely the place that made me into a naval officer. Finished up there, and then right down here to Pensacola to start flight training. Went through introductory flight screening and aviation pre-flight indoctrination down here in Pensacola, and then stuck around the area, went up to Milton to Whiting Field to fly at VT6 for primary flight training. Was fortunate enough to select we selected tailhook at the time out of primary, so no guarantee you were flying jets. You're either going to fly a jet or an E2 or a C2, basically something carrier based. But that was at least the next hurdle I had to clear to hopefully fulfill my dream of flying jets, and I was able to select that. Went up to Meridian, Mississippi for intermediate and advanced flight training up there at VT7, flying the T-45. And halfway through that training, so at the conclusion of intermediate, is when they made the selection for jets or for E2, C2s, so like big wing propeller planes that land on the aircraft carrier. I was fortunate enough to select jets, which was great. Completed my training up there in Meridian, finishing with CQ on board the Dwight Eisenhower. Got my 10 traps and my wings of gold there. Selected Super Hornets out of Meridian, went to Lemoore, California to VFA 122 and learned how to fly the Super Hornet. Was there for about 9-10 months, completing flight training, and then ultimately carrier qualifying again in the Super Hornet on the Vinson. And again, just like when I joined the Navy, it was a pretty quick turnaround. I had that last trap came back to Lemoore and they said, you're going to Japan in like 5 days. So packed my bags, moved out, got on a plane, and met my fleet squadron, VFA 115, the Eagles in Guam. They had just gotten there on a port call, so it was like night one of a port call. Met my squadron, and then boarded the USS Ronald Reagan and went straight out to sea. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. Did about almost 4 years in Japan. Absolutely loved it. It wasn't where I wanted to go initially. I kind of wanted to stay stateside, but needs of the Navy sent me out to Japan. But I flew with some of the best aviators I've ever met in my career out there. It was just an incredible experience. We flew all the time. We were on the aircraft carrier 6 months out of the year, every year. And when we weren't on the carrier, we were flying out of Japan. So it was an absolute blast. Learned a ton out there, and just overall, just a very positive experience. It was also where I met my first Blue Angel. Dave Tickle was my department head in VFA 115, and I flew a bunch of flights with him out there. We got along really well, and he was the first person who kind of told me about his experience being on this team, and it was something that was pretty near and dear to me, just because it was my initial inspiration for joining the Navy in the first place. And he really kind of encouraged me to go down the path of maybe one day applying for this team, and kind of opened up my eyes to what life on the team was like. And after I finished up my tour in Japan and VFA 115, got orders back to VFA 122 to be an instructor pilot in Lemoore, California. And from there, I had the opportunity to apply to the Blue Angels. And similar to when I applied to be a Navy pilot in the first place, if I knew I was going to regret passing up the opportunity to do that, I certainly would have regretted passing up the opportunity to apply to the Blue Angels. So submitted an application. This was 2020, March of 2020, and basically got as far as submitting the application, and then we got an email almost immediately saying that the season was canceled and they weren't going to be hiring any pilots for the upcoming season, which was a little bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. And fortunately enough, when 2021 came around, the Blues had a season. We were able to go through the application process, and I was fortunate enough to be selected for the Blues, which was an incredible honor. Probably, certainly a moment in my naval aviation career that I'll never forget. Having that phone call and finding out I made the team, and then ultimately heading down to Pensacola. But I guess in a similar fashion to when I initially joined the Navy and then ended up going out to Japan, I found out I made the Blue Angels on, I think it was July 11th. On August 11th, our first child, my daughter Josephine, was born. And then on, I think, September 12th was my first day of work here in Pensacola with the Blue Angels. So it was back to back to back, but it was an absolute blast. And then came down here and started my time on the Blue Angels, which was fantastic. It's interesting. So we started our tacky newbie time in September of 2021. So we finished up the season with the 2021 team, and that's when we kind of found out that the documentary was going to be happening for the 2022 season. But as any former Blue Angel or current Blue Angel will tell you, the going to the team and starting on the team, everything is so different than anything you have done prior to that in your naval career. So everything was new, and people often asked in regard to the documentary, was it so distracting learning how to fly and be a part of this demo with all the IMAX cameras around and film crews and everything like that? And I think I may have even told you this before, but I was like, at that point, everything was new. So I was just like, well, I guess this is just how it is,
Nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to compare it to. So I knew it was going to be, being on this team would be a unique experience, and it would be tough with a lot of stuff going on, but it was just sort of I guess par for the course, I guess, in that first year. And it really wasn't until my second season that I realized, hey, wow, things really kind of calmed down here a little bit. We don't have camera crews anymore, no helicopter flying around in the aerobatic box. So yeah, didn't really hit me the first year when the film was being made, but I certainly realized how different of an experience that was once I got into my second year. Yeah, I mean, being a member of the Blue Angels was an incredible honor. I mean, I think what I always say, you kind of go through 3 phases of your life in the Blue Angels. The first one is you're applying to the team, right? You just really want to get selected. You're like, this is all I want to do. I really hope I can get the opportunity to do it. I think it would be, an absolute blast, And then if you're fortunate enough to get selected, that desire to join the team and passion to want to be on the team, that immediately turns into almost fear, like, oh man, I can't believe I got selected. I don't want to mess this up. I want to do the best I can. I don't want them to think that they made a mistake. And almost, I think, naturally for everyone, just a bit of self-doubt, like, can I actually do this? This looks, so incredible, and it looks so challenging. Am I a good enough pilot to even do what I'm watching right now? And when you join the team, when you're a khaki newbie, you're seeing the team kind of in the last 2 to 3 months of the season, when they are at their absolute best, flying as close as they have all season, and the team is just absolutely clicking. So it's certainly daunting, and when you see that, and you do wonder, am I going to be able to do this? And then the drop of salute happens at the end of that season. You go from wearing khakis to wearing a blue flight suit, and now you're starting at square one. You're practicing a walk down and getting into a jet and taxiing and all these basic things that you've taken for granted your entire naval career. And now it feels like you're doing it all for the first time. And you sort of are, because it's completely different than how you've done it before, but you feel like you're back on day one of flight school, except you're wearing a blue flight suit and getting into a Blue Angel jet, which certainly gives you a little bit of a reality check. You then kind of progress, you start to get better, and then you kind of get into that last phase where it's like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this, and I'm starting to feel somewhat comfortable, but now it's coming to an end. I'm almost done with this tour, because it goes by in an absolute flash. You spend that first year, really the entire first year, trying to just figure it out, and then just by the time you kind of get to the end of that first year, you're starting to feel kind of comfortable. And then depending on what position you're flying, that season ends, and now you're flying in a completely new position, and now you're the senior person there that the new folks are looking to for answers, when just the other day, you were the one who didn't have any answers, and we're just trying to learn. So it's quite the cycle on the team, and it's incredible to watch the evolution of a team throughout a season, and certainly over your tour on the team as well. But an absolute blast, and I think that's why the selection is so important. We're one of the few organizations in the military that's allowed to select our own replacements. So making sure you pick folks that are humble, approachable, and are team oriented, like team first mentalities, I think is crucial, because you need those qualities to succeed on this team. You need to be able to be coachable, and then conversely, you need to be able to teach in that second year in a way that people want to listen. It was a great experience. Like, Stalin was fantastic in the number 3 spot, and I think, yes, a lot of people will put emphasis on the fact that she was the first female F-18 pilot selected, but that is not why we selected her to the team. We selected her to the team for all of those characteristics and attributes that I mentioned before, that she's a great pilot, a great teammate, and that she had the same mindset that we all had of wanting to make the Blue Angels better and to fly the best flight demonstration we possibly could, and have a positive impact on the community and the nation as a whole as we traveled around and performed our flight demonstrations. So made my job incredibly easy, because she showed up every day motivated to learn and to get better, and that's what we hope everyone does who gets selected for the team. And generally speaking, I think the team does a very good job of selecting folks with that mentality. So I don't think I felt any extra pressure with being the person to instruct her in that first year on the team. I think most people who were in the 4 position will tell you that no matter who their 3 is, I kind of judged my success, and I think all 4s judge their success on the success of the number 3 pilot, right? You want that person to have the best season they possibly can have, and you want to be able to set the team up for success in the future after you leave. And if it all works out, hopefully, like, every year the team gets better. So every season is the best season that the Blue Angels have ever had. So I know that's the mentality I went into, and that's not just for the 3 pilot. That's for the whole Diamond. That's for the whole Delta. That's for the whole team. You hope that's the result. So I think every successful 4 pilot has kind of tied their success to their 3 pilot and ensure that 3 pilot has a great season and you set the team up for success in the future. I was fortunate enough after I finished the team to be able to stay here in Pensacola and basically walk right down the hallway to VT-86 to be an instructor pilot there, which was an absolute blast. I loved teaching, I loved instructing. It was something I was able to do before I was at the Blue Angels when I was at VFA 122. And then in the number 4 role on the Blue Angels as the team's training officer, I was able to do that on the team. So being able to continue to instruct and continue to teach at VT-86 and get back to the fleet, if you will, teaching future naval aviators and naval flight officers was incredible. It was a very cool transition, leaving the team and going back into that role. And fortunately, because I was local, I was able to still fly a little bit with the Blue Angels and help them do maintenance check flights on jets, transit jets from point A to point B, and occasionally fly some photo chases, which was a ton of fun. It was great to continue to be in a Blue Angel jet and fly around a bit, but it certainly was a cherry on top. It was the best part was really getting to go back and instruct and really get to enjoy Pensacola. I think most folks don't realize that on the Blue Angels, you're gone like 300 plus days a year from Pensacola. So even though the team is based here, we really didn't get to spend that much time here. So being able to get follow-on orders here in Pensacola and be able to enjoy this great city and spend more time with the people here and with my family here in Pensacola, and not have it be a place that I just kind of kept my stuff and then blast off in a Blue Angel jet every weekend to go elsewhere throughout the country was great. I don't think I ever felt like I wished I was still doing it or that I was still on the team. I had an incredible time on the team. The 2022 season and the 2023 season were fantastic, and I felt incredibly fulfilled at the end of that 2023 season. And not that I wanted to leave. I certainly missed the people and some of the flying, but I don't think I ever wished that I was back in it. I was more happy to see that the team had continued to get better. All those things that I said before, right? You hope that while you're a member of the team, you're a good steward of your position, and that you just help get the team a little bit better every year and propel it forward. So I think, if anything, I was more kind of proud to be flying outside of that formation and watching all of my friends who I was on the team with or who I had a hand in selecting fly this demo and kind of get to see it from a removed perspective that I hadn't seen before. And I think that was awesome. I mean, that is the goal, right? You hope that at the end of your time there, the team just continues to get better, and to see all of my friends doing that and to be able to have a front row seat to that was really special. The Blue Angels have an incredible ability to inspire, and I think that I'm evidence of that. I was a kid that really had no exposure to the military or to naval aviation other than watching the Blue Angels perform. And I felt like when we were on the team, and that the Blue Angels mission in general, most people always said, well, you guys are a recruiting tool. You guys must be a great recruiting tool, the best recruiting tool for the Navy and Marine Corps. And undoubtedly, the Blue Angels are a fantastic recruiting tool for the Navy and Marine Corps. I mean, I am evidence of that. But I always felt that the mission of the Blue Angels was really to inspire a culture of excellence, and to inspire folks to be a part of something greater than themselves, and to give back to their community or to their country in some way. So, I met many more people on the flight line or at schools or at kind of various commitments that we had throughout my time on the Blue Angels who did not want to join the military and who didn't want to be pilots, but they were interested in other things. They wanted to be musicians or doctors or teachers or lawyers or whatever it may be. But they were still inspired by that culture of excellence of the Blue Angels and that kind of team first mentality. And I always thought that was really cool because, whatever it is that you wanted to be, that you want to be, I think the Blue Angels are a way to encourage you to just be the best version of yourself and to pursue that to the best of your abilities. And in doing so, try and be a part of something that's greater than yourself and give back in some way. So I think that that mission of the team has been consistent and has carried on for almost 80 years now. And I promise you there are many more people that have been inspired by the Blue Angels and have gone on to do other things. But that experience that they had meeting a Blue Angel on the flight line or watching the Blue Angels fly over their town or over their city, that's stayed with them, and that has continued to inspire them, even if aviation or the military has not been the field that they've wound up in.